Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Kodiak Shack podcast. Before I get to our guest today, I'm going to get the admin because everyone knows if I don't talk about it right away, I don't talk about it at all. So thank you everybody for listening. Give us 5 stars, share the episodes, tell your friends about us, and subscribe on whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. We've got our videos on YouTube if you didn't already know that, and follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn because we're all over the place and we're having fun with this. We're always donations are always available, and we're always looking for sponsors of episodes. So reach out at info@kodiakshack.com or check out our website, kodiakshack.com. All right, now to the reason we're all here. Today we have Emma. She is back. She was, I think, our 3rd episode. I should have looked that up, but I'm poor at managing my time. But Emma was here previously, and she's brought her father, Tony, and he is a retired 2-star general. Emma, everybody knows her from the original episode. She was a intel officer from the Air Force Academy, and she also worked with operator types, South America, which mainly was her focus, which was a very cool topic. I had a lot of questions. Hopefully everybody enjoyed them. And her father, retired 2-star general, was a B-52, B-1, and then B-2 pilot. And then he finished his career working at AETC and then helping Space Force get their legs under them. So thank you, Emma, and Sir Tony. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Emma, once again, tell us about yourself. It's not a trap.
Sure. Let's see how my story lines up maybe from the last time. But yeah, like you mentioned, graduated from the Air Force Academy, class 2010, and went into the intel world. I had a very different career for an Air Force intel type and really spent most of it with special operations. So I think I speak probably Army and Navy better than I do Air Force for my time in. You're right, spent some time in South America working counter-drug, and then went on to run the ISR kinetic operations programs in Africa and the Middle East. Again, working with primarily tier 1 and tier 2 SOF units.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sir Tony, what do you got for us?
Well, there's another little block of time that, after I left the Air Force, it was early 2011. And then in 2012, I got picked up by Boeing. And after I retired from the Air Force, I did a sprint with an independent consulting. I had, I think, 3 or 4 contracts. It was a blast. A little bit of advice for your listeners on consultants. Consulting is a very easy job because you walk into, usually it's a briefing or working with the engineers, and you walk in, you say, get rid of all these slides. You got way too many for the customer. You walk out and get a check. And there's zero accountability, And the only thing you keep in the back of your mind is you got to be kind of nice, so you don't anger your customer, the people who hired you, so you get invited back. That's the key part, where you've got to massage it in a way where, hey, I like this guy, the way he's doing it, so yeah, I'm going to come back.
Every consultant in our industry just got fired today.
Yeah. Well done. So people who hire consultants, be leery of that. The price of it, that's hard-earned money that you're paying for. And if you are a consultant, don't have the fangs out, keep your kid gloves on. You've got to have some polish and customer engagement skill in that so that you get invited back.
Go ahead.
But and the other thing about the consulting piece was, I was the only military guy. It was Aerojet, okay, before it came Aerojet Rocketdyne. That was my first one. And it was literally the engineers wanted to fill up every white space on that slide, and I would tell them, I used to get these briefings, and if you put math on it, I'm checking your math. If you have all those words, I know there's a typo in there somewhere and I'm going to find it. So whatever you're talking to me about, I'm not listening, because it's there. You have to be you don't want to talk. You want to have an engagement, participation on all people. I want to tell you what I think. And if you got 20 slides in a 30-minute period, I'm wondering if I need a haircut. What am I going to have for lunch? That's what happens. So, if anybody out there that's thinking of being a consultant, call me and I'll help you through that process. So after I finished when I got hired for Boeing, I worked for Boeing for 10 years. Business development in Colorado was their location. And it started out as space and strategic systems, and it morphed into Air Force and space systems. So I had all the field offices for Boeing where the commands were for Air Force and space. So obviously here, Colorado Springs, working with Space Command, Northcom, Stratcom, Global Strike, Air Combat Command, AMC. So I had offices at all those places. So 9 field offices, I think, across the country. We even had one at Nellis and Eglin for weapons. So that's what I was doing. It was a fun job. I got pulled in just about soon as I got, within 3 months, I got pulled into the TX program and worked that through its iteration. And that was really, I think, the best program I worked. And I learned so much of how it evolves in the acquisition process. And quite frankly, I bleed blue, both Air Force and Boeing, okay? That's up front. But the challenge many a times was internal with Boeing as opposed to the challenges with your customer. Because the engineers wanted, for example, as we brought the TX and started finishing that design, somebody said, hey, let's make it air refuelable. That will really win it for us. And we had a fight because the RFP and all, the L&M said nothing about air refuelable. And that we harangued ourselves over that until finally, we just slapped the table and said no. Now, that airplane is plumbed for air refueling, but they just don't have the receiver on it. So, we had to make a compromise.
Well, it's funny because I would assume most people, myself included, if I'm going to say, hey, who's going to cause the issues, halfway across the field in production, it's going to be the DoD, not Boeing itself. But apparently the, as we call it, the good idea fairy who just floats around dropping these ideas,
exactly.
Exists everywhere.
And hey, I got an idea. Let's paint the roses red.
Yeah.
No, it's not in the RFP. And I worked other programs. I worked with many of the classified space programs, did a lot on that. And so, yeah, it was a great opportunity, and I had a lot of fun, especially with the people. The majority of the field offices, we would hire retired people from that command. Retiring colonel, boom, we hire them. And now they're off and running because they have all the relationships with the command. So we streamlined it, and it, the downside of that is, retired military really want to take off and run, but there's also bureaucracy, just like the Air Force. Any big has that same concept. There's layers of bureaucracy that you gotta. That's the biggest, kind of toning it down, backing it off, get off the accelerator, and keep going.
Well, and that's what having never worked for any of these, larger companies, I almost imagine that that's kind of the case, is where we have companies that work so much with the military, that hire so much from the military. It probably just seems like military light, like very similar probably structures and styles, just in a different organization.
Yeah, and it's true, and it's a tremendous opportunity after your life in the military, and quite frankly, the bigs also need that military mind of, that's really not how they're thinking, when the customer says no to something, you can't go back and say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. I know what you need, and you had to rein that in. But yeah, so I retired out of Boeing last October 22, and then hitched my wagon to Emma, and it's exciting and fun with what she's got going on.
Well, and that's what I feel like, that's just her MO, I mean, like, what's more exciting than working with operators and then getting into innovation and always just kind of running around and making things happen, which that kind of leads to my next question. So obviously we know Emma has an Intel background, and we're late to the game on the Russia-Ukraine, which by over a year, but that's about my timeline. I'm normally pretty late to stuff. But then also, the balloons over the U.S. There's so many questions that I think the American people and probably the world kind of got thrust into this. Hey, how do countries know what is happening, what's not happening, what's flying in their airspace, what isn't? So from an Intel person's perspective, like, how do you kind of gather information? How do you vet information out? And then how do you ensure that the information that you're like, yep, this is true, and you pass that on, how do you know what you're doing is correct?
The short answer is you don't, but you try to mitigate as much as possible, and present options to people like on the other screen from me, who have to take on that risk and decide whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze and the risk is worth the reward for any given target, for example. But I would tell you that the challenge that has become increasingly overwhelming across the board in the Intel space is the tidal wave of information. There is too much information out there, and not a great way to chew through it, if you will, at volume and with the volume and at scale for any one analyst. And something that I've really noticed was the case when I was serving, and I think is still the case just based on the customers we work with, is no analyst is created the same either. And so as much as people want to get humans out of the loop with data analytics and being able to provide insights from big volumes of data, certainly possible. The technology exists, it's been proven, and it's wonderful. But without that human who can really, really connect the dots on the mission side of the house and understand what those risks might be, and how you serve up a course of action to a leader to make a decision, that's a different problem set that I'm not convinced that technology is necessarily going to be able to solve in the short term. Longer term, probably. But yeah, I mean, just to summarize, the answer is you don't really know. All you can do is find out as much as you possibly can in a oftentimes limited time period and give options. Luckily, we don't always have to pull the trigger on some of the decisions, and we don't have to live with a lot of the risk. But in the particular job that I had, I did. And so I just had to get really comfortable with my evidence that I presented and why we were going to pursue something. And if I got approvals to pursue it, then we did. And frankly, didn't look back.
Yeah. And I mean, because you could probably perpetually just be stuck in the rearview mirror,
Forever.
you know, second guessing. And, you know, I've said this before and I'll say it again. It is, you know, as a single seat, you know, type person, like I am very, very comfortable accepting risk for myself. And it is very easy for me to say, like, I will accept that risk. I am comfortable with that. But then when that risk extends beyond me and I'm risking other people, or my mistakes will cause, pain or even like fatalities of the wrong people, that's when things start to get very concerning for me. So now as an Intel person gathering this data, and then other people are going to go into harm's way, or people are going to make decisions to execute on these things off of the data you're gathering. That's a different ball game. And
well, I want to ask you a question, Vader.
Oh,
so as an operator,
oh yeah. I appreciate that, by the way. Call myself an operator. But I imagine like some like bearded, like hardcore dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, someday.
We count you as that.
Well, thank you. I don't deserve it.
So as an operator, you have to have been in a scenario before where the intel you were getting, which is oftentimes remote, right? They're not sitting in the cockpit with you. They're not, in most cases, on the ground next to a shooter. So you're getting your information remotely. Have you ever been in a situation where you've been like, that intel I'm not seeing it. I have the tactical level view right now, and that is not valid. And what did you do?
Yeah, so I was lucky that it didn't happen directly to me. But actually, technically, I don't know. Everything I did and the things the employments that I have had in my past, I didn't get a negative phone call, so no news is good news. But I am, especially, this was when I was an F-16 guy, when you're night, because I like flying at night, looking through a targeting pod from any number of miles away, it's hot spots on a targeting pod. And you're told these are bad people. And you employ, and the phone doesn't ring when you land, so they probably were who they said they were. Now, the reality is, like, I don't truly know. I didn't have a target set with images, and it's not like stealth where I'm like, yep, that person looks like the person in my pod, weapons away. So I just trust that the vetting process was vetted correctly. I have friends who were with me while we were deployed. That whole vetting process happened. A firefight is going on. 2 different groups of people are shooting at each other. They get clearance to drop. As they are on their way to release the weapon, the people they're about to drop on start moving. So they abort the pass. The people that they're about to drop on drive up to the people that they were just shooting at, and it turns out they were all on the same team. So that is one of those where the whole process was done. Like the vetting, the people on the ground are saying, those guys over there are bad people. They are, in an active firefight. The whole process happened until they had a F-16 with a weapon in position to release with clearance to drop. And just by luck, they didn't. And thank goodness that was the case. So, I mean, it's not perfect. And like you said, you can always second guess, and you wonder how many data gaps there were that led to people saying, yes, like, clear them hot. Yes, they're good to go. And so, thank goodness that's the way that happened. And sadly, just so people aren't mistaken, like, the wrong decision happens sometimes. And so, and we remember those, and they stick with you. I mean, the decisions that might have been stick with you. So the decision that did happen and was wrong, like, yeah, that never goes away. So yeah, that is stressful. And that's one of those things where you're like, I trust you. Like I trust Emma to provide the right information to the 2-star general who's providing me the clearance to release, and I'm going to do my job. And, as long as everybody does their job, then we're good.
So, I'd like to state for the record real quick that if anyone was flying over Iraq in the year 2015, all of your targets were valid and accurate. And thank you.
Nailed it. Well,
thank you for your bomb services.
Yeah. Happy to provide them.
Perfect.
Yeah. Nobody messed up on that one. On your one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just to pile on, I mean, the first caveman walked out of his cave and fell into a tar pit, but his neighbor knew that the tar pit was there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a constant problem, and what you do have to rely on is the people surrounded you are truly immersed in their job, and the trust is there, and that, okay, if there was a mistake made, you have the faith in that person to back them up as a result to protect them, and that's one thing I think I always focused on in the command billet, was making sure my staff were qualified and capable and put their heart into it. There was enthusiasm from everybody to make sure that everyone knew the importance of that position, any position. Story, I'm in the B-2s, wing commander, and we're building up to Afghanistan, and we were going to be the first attack. And for a week, they kept calling saying, tonight's the night, tonight's the night, tonight's the night. So we'd spin up and then spin down, and the crews would go back home. And it was Friday night, spin up. And then he said, no, not tonight. We go to the club. And then they, of course, the call. And it really is tonight. So we scramble, get the crews back, brief them up. And they're stepping to the jet. And Jimmy Smithers says, God, this is going to be a long flight. I wonder what's for lunch. And everybody looked around and went, lunches? Lunches. And we went, shit, my kingdom for a lunch? There goes that star. And this airman who was detailed to be a bus driver, take the crew out, said, sir, if you could find someone to drive my bus, I have a key to the chow hall. I work there. So we go, yeah, get going. And he built a bunch of lunches and they put them on the airplane. It was 2 jets, 30-hour mission. So you got to build those things up. And the crews went out, started their stuff, and the bus comes and drops off the lunches up the hatch, and off they go. So, there's always something that that got you out there. And no matter how much you think, we rehearsed everything, but it was like, well, you can't make the lunches every night because what are you going to do with them?
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing, when I think about like airplanes and the fact that just make them fly. I barely understand that. But just overall, the complexity of the things we do. Just to fly around your base, not even flying around the world for 30 hours. And it makes so much sense because we focus on the highest threat. What's the most dangerous? What's the most likely? And then we all, as we're probably snacking, talking through all this stuff, forget about some of the most basic human things. And it's amazing.
Yeah. And, your crew chief, think of it. He could do he could forget one little thing that could ruin everything. Yeah. But it's just amazing how these crew chiefs, they're an unsung hero, in my opinion.
I agree. And I think, trust. I think so much of the military revolves around exactly that. Like I had a squadron commander who he stepped to spare. So we were trying to same combat or a deployment. My jet breaks on takeoff. So I don't get airborne. He gets airborne. So as I'm going to my new jet, he doesn't have enough gas to wait for me and then me get airborne. So he just goes max AB, burns all his gas, lands real quick. So now I'm waiting on him, and he literally gets out of his jet. As he walks up to the new jet, he goes, "Is this a good jet?" And the crew chief goes, "Yes, sir." Walks up the ladder and he's in the jet. And that's the thing where it's just like, I trust you. You're going to do your job right, and then I'm going to do my job. And it's a huge organization that hopefully we can do that with everyone.
I wonder if other air forces in the world can say that. We when I was at AETC, we had several foreign countries come visit to understand our NCO process. They wanted to know what responsibilities they have and how do they get there, and how every commander is joined at the hip with the chief. the chief master, that really is the person who runs everything.
Yeah.
Who runs the flight line, and everybody knows that. And if you think, oh, that's my flight line, you're kidding yourself, because every time you go out there, he's watching what you're doing. Yeah. Or she.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that so many of my first deployment stories are coming back up, but, the chief, he was hardcore, and, well, I'll say his name. He probably didn't care, but Chief Klein, awesome dude. I mean, I didn't obviously work with him much, but he was very, like, his maintainers, we are deployed, so who cares? You're deployed. And he was like, nope, like, rules are rules. We follow them at home. We follow them here. And I asked him, I was like, hey, Chief, like, I know you got mad at some of the guys about the sunglasses they were wearing. Do you care? And he's like, I don't care about you. And I was like, yeah. I respect that, because he's like, I'm not, I don't deal with you. I deal with my guys. My guys are going to do this thing. You do whatever you want. You go do your pilot thing. But I just appreciated, because he took his job very serious. And he said, like, you're not my responsibility. So that's, and I appreciated the guy he was.
But I that's another, I think, part of the recipe for my success was having a darn good, whether it was squadron command, group, wing, having that chief that you sit down in the office, you got any burn your saddle, let's get it out, and let's walk out of here. And it's good for the good of the unit too, because the unit wants to see that. Yeah. And that if the chief jumps on somebody, he knows the commander's got his back. And chiefs love to get on officers. Man, you know that. They are waiting for you to do something that's not right, and they'll come after you. What are you teaching my airmen? They're great. They're worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, and I mean, we lovingly refer to it as being chiefed. Like something happens, the chief calls you out, you're like, oof, chief got me.
At Ellsworth, it was a great honor. They made me an honorary chief. It's probably the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's, you talk about, being part of organizations, and, if you can't be in the organization, obviously, because you were an officer and a general officer at that, but them saying, like, we bestow this, like, we see the things we pride and we appreciate in you, so you can become an honorary. Yeah. And that is an honor. Full
circle since I started out enlisted.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it was full circle.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now obviously we're talking about trust. So now, if people don't already know, because I didn't say the last name, because I know I'm going to butcher it, so I apologize. But Emma and Tony here are father and daughter, if you don't mind me telling everybody. But trusting the people that you work with, and then Emma, obviously she's been in innovation for a while, and then Tony having been in the military, and then Boeing, and then now in innovation as well. So what kind of trust exercises are you getting into nowadays?
Curveball. I feel like every day is a new trust exercise.
Yeah, I assume.
But you got to admit, it's getting closer and closer. It started out with new people you don't really know, you think you know, but you got to admit, I mean, it's narrowing, and your doubt is a lot less than it was when you started out.
And we just have this amazing group of people that are getting closer and closer. And gosh, like, I just feel so honored to be a part of that. And I think the challenge and the trust exercises that I probably need to Google real fast and figure out is, how do you bring new people into that? When you have that core group who's rowing the boat, and they're rowing fast and hard and feeling it, how do you bring in a new rower? Like, those are the things that I'm like, I have no idea. So Vader, if you come up with anything, please let us know. And the other thing that I would share is, like, even just with my dad and what it has taken for us to pull together what we are doing, I've asked for trust from a lot of people in a lot of different forms. some monetarily, some just of their time to like, trust me, this is going to work out and this is going to be wildly successful for anyone that wants to be a part of it. And I, man, feel sick to my stomach most days because I ask people to do that. So now I got to figure it out. And so that's my own little trust exercise I'm going through, is how do I deliver on these small increments that point to the bigger plan that one day I get to say, see, I told you.
Well, and I think that's the, I don't think there's probably a lot of trust exercises in the fighter community that I don't even realize is happening. I think a lot of it is just trial by fire. It's just, like everybody's rowing, everybody's making it happen. You don't really know exactly what you're supposed to do, but jump in there and give it a good shot, and you're probably going to fail. Maybe not completely, but in some way. And you just got to kind of roll with it.
Totally.
People can say that, yeah, we trust anybody, but the real trust is stressed and measured when something goes bad. And that's when something goes bad, and if you become completely isolated, that's not a strong trust bond there. But when things go bad, who's there next to you saying, hey, what can I do to help? You're okay. Don't worry about this. It'll come out all right. That kind of encouragement. That's where the test of trust, I think, is really measured. I've been through some things, and the people I thought were there for me were not. And the ones who were there, I was surprised by it.
I think that's where, there's that old saying, like, where the rubber meets the road. But the reality is, like, that's where you really see who you can trust, who you can rely on, and, and who can actually help you get things done and make it happen.
And those things happen every day. I mean, it's parking your car at the squadron, trust the guy's not going to ding your door, the small things like that. But at the end, it says a lot.
Yeah. Well, so now what is Strike working on now kind of to help kind of change the game? Because I think we talked about trust, we talked about previous endeavors and everything, but what is happening there?
Yeah. This is my favorite question, obviously. So where I left off with my background was I got out of the Air Force after all that intel work and running bad guys down, and went right into tech because I was enamored with the idea of bringing better tech back to people like me and my friends and family that were left to serve in uniform. And so spent some time in the tech industry and really kind of came to this conclusion that the warfighter needed warfighters on this side of the fence that can really help them identify capabilities that exist on the market or could be created based on things that are on the market that help them do their jobs better. So Strike Solutions, I'm proud to present, is a solution integrator. We are focused primarily on mission expertise. So we hire mission experts and we design and integrate exquisite technology to give to the warfighter. Like, no kidding, in the field, in an individual's hands. And the most exciting thing about what we're doing right now is we have a hardware and software product that we are fielding in kits for operators that is, no kidding, tying sensors together. So it is sensor fusion for the tactical collection layer. Where I think the magic will happen in the future for us is, how do you tie that to the bigger picture? Nobody has a great tactical view of what's going on, to what we were saying earlier, Vader, where you might, and this, thank God, didn't happen to you, but you might get intel as an operator that you're like, that is not what I'm looking at. How do we fix that? Because that's a huge disconnect. And how do you empower people like Tony in their former roles to make better decisions because they almost have their eyes and ears on the ground themselves? So it's been very, very exciting. We are fusing together all kinds of radio frequency collection with video collection, Bluetooth, cell phone. Like, we're doing some crazy stuff, and couldn't do it without our team. 100%.
A foot stomp on that is the team that is doing this stuff came from there.
Yeah.
So, they know, they've got a good insight into what is lacking there, as they call it, the edge. That's the front. They know what is needed there, so they work towards that, but they also have the credibility with the customer. And that is very valuable. That is significant.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say, like, as an end user, like, there are engineers who are wildly smarter than me that can build tech that I can't even dream of, but they don't understand what I know as the guy in the seat. So we're talking operators out there who are, we're talking data gaps, like, I need the information, and it may exist out there because an AWACS has it, or an F-22 or F-35 has some of this information, or the person on the ground is seeing the thing that the F-35 needs to know where it is. And how do we fuse all this information so everybody is looking at the same battle space? Because just like, it is, we didn't plan this, I promise, but like you said, like the fact that we had, like, it wasn't blue on blue fire, but it effectively friendly fire that we were unaware of and almost employed on one of the groups, just shows, like, if we had a better way to battle track, battle manage, and understand the battle space, like, we can hopefully preclude a lot of that.
You're spot on. And what worries me the most, so we're in business because we want to, candidly, we want to mess with China. And what worries us the most is the sophistication of the threats that come out of there are going to have a ton of noise. And it's going to be very unclear what's real and what's not, and where is the whack-a-mole right now. And without layering on every single possible layer of information that you can get, I don't know how you solve that problem. But at the same time, that creates the same problem I spoke of earlier, which is there's too much information. Like, how do you actually sort through that? And so our entire approach is, let's start at the tactical level. That's where we're going to start. And we're going to start by collecting all the noise that's around an individual. And we're going to put that all together so that you can very quickly know you have someone following you. You have this weird car that keeps showing up, and they keep changing license plates, but it's the same car. And so we're trying to solve that at the very, very ground level so that we can extrapolate those lessons learned and how this works at the operational level, and then hopefully at the strategic level at some point. But very, very interested in how we can solve that on the ground.
Yeah. And that's, just the example you gave, I was like, oh, that's wild. Like, that just seems, there's people who are really doing this stuff. Like I said, like the real operators, but and how do we get that into their hands? And because our biggest problem is, like, how do we build these things to make them secure, and so they can't be exploited and messed with and things, but then also make them user friendly and have connectivity? Because the problem is, like, I'm sorry, I can't log into my Nipper to get the crypto, or, like, how do we kind of blend that of the, the art and the science to get that to be the product they want in a user-friendly way?
I love that question, and our team is so passionate about that. And I think it lies solely on partnerships, so that you can truly bring in people that are the best at some particular aspect of what you're trying to deliver that doesn't play in the space, but they do something like GUI creation really, really well. And with that, Tony, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the consortium, but definitely talk about Altea and kind of the light bulbs that went off on that.
What a bridge. You're
what I do.
Tom Train.
It's Friday. You don't know how many cocktails I've had, so we're good.
Yeah,
in the zone,
okay.
The sweet spot. Yeah.
Okay. So part of this, as we get involved, there's a nonprofit called Catalyst Campus, Technology and Innovation. Their growth, and the focus is to bring small companies in through an accelerator and get them jump started to go after to get their product to market. And a piece of this, the founder of it came up with an idea: as these companies kick off, let's bring them together and create what he's calling a consortium. So we're members of this consortium. This is the first one he's done. There's 9 companies involved in it. And, you know, he's very intelligent in the fact of, okay, these are the companies I'm involved in. And he tried to get threads between two and then throw us in a room and go after it. The first meeting we had in Arizona, and the companies came in. Strike gave their pitch of what we do. Semco is a telemetry hardware and data collector. Semantics is all about language and recordings and kind of using AI to build databases on what, for example, their plan is to be able to have a system where you can put in keywords of the work you do, and it will automatically feed. You won't have to go to FedEx, FedGov, BizOps, any of that. It will be able to push the RFPs that come out towards you. You don't have to constantly go in there. So that's pretty cool. So we spent that, and then this week we brought the engineers in to talk, to really get technical, and dissect everything, got down to exactly what they do, and there were constant light bulbs going on in the room. Semco, produces these telemetry kits. Okay, so it's electronic gear. What happens when Strike, with our product from the West, from the East Coast guys, what happens when they land 150 unit order to Border Patrol? How are we going to produce 150 units? Well, Semco, Emma went there to visit them, and we could just push the order to them, and they got an assembly line. And there you go, 150 units. It would take us a while to build that. So all these things are happening, in the room, and it's pretty amazing. One of the partners in this concept told us, the first one, I had to do a lot of talking. And now I didn't have a chance to say anything, because you guys were we had to rein you in, because the engagements were constantly going, and you might mishear, not pick up on something that's said on the other side of the room. So the energy level, everyone, it's also based on trust. Don't ask me about my secret sauce and then take it and run. You got to be cautious, but that's how we are building that trust, by getting face to face, comparing notes, and saying, hey, we need to partner with you for this. So it's pretty exciting. It kicked off just this year, right, Em? I think the concept we talked about it last summer, and it was pretty, made us giddy about it. But you got to have the right people doing it. Everyone's got skin in the game,
Jeff, if you don't mind, just one pile on to that, just to come full circle to your question about like making things usable, because technology, engineers love to over-engineer things because that's what they do, and they're brilliant. And at a certain point, you got to make it so that like I can use it. Yeah. And so one of the companies is a company called Altea. And they build all of the graphical user interfaces, almost all of them, for cars. So think about the most intuitive type of GUI that your average human has to be able to work with. He makes them. So how could we find on this earth a better partner And then also having him create a GUI for operators who you can just dictate to him, hey, Mike, this is kind of like what we need. It needs to be super simple, lowest common denominator. They're probably going to be shooting while they're using it. So like keep that in mind. And he like loves it and knows very little about that space. So it's exciting for him. It's a huge pickup for the DoD because it's like, now we have a new thought leader that we didn't even know existed. And that's also been very cool, I think, about
that is probably one of the best examples of a partnership that's going on. I think it's really exciting, Jeff. I really love participating in it.
And the thing that I always argue, you know, when people ask me like, oh, what's a war going to be like against another big country, you know, or anything like that. And I like to believe, I don't know for certain, but I say, you know, I actually think Emma and I talked about this last time we were on the podcast together was, you know, when the United States and in our entire country brings the entire weight of all of its effort and the entire might of everything it can produce, it is theoretically and hopefully overwhelming. And I think now you're doing the exact same thing. You're taking a ton of people and instead of fractioning them off into small different organizations and everybody's super excited, motivated with probably a lot of overlap in what they're trying to produce or able to produce, you put them in the room together and then, you know, sparks fly because it's motivated people who are excited about what they do who now get to talk to other motivated people who are excited about what they do. And so that's awesome because, you know, you know, kind of sidebar story. You said, you know, you have to be able to use it. So my buddy, Tron, really good dude, he said, our mission, like F-16 mission planning is not good. So he made a website. It's called Viper Ops. And it's super good. They now, it's effectively the de facto mission planning program that pilots use. And he would just send it to me and be like, hey, see if you can break this. You know, so he, you know, he used me as like, hey, you're an end user, you're terrible at technology. So go ahead and see if you can even make this happen. So I think it's great that you not only are collaborating with people, but then bringing people on who can produce products that end users can actually use. Cause
hey, did this guy get any compensation for that?
For making the product?
For Viper Ops.
No, it's out there right now. He pays to put it out there every month. Yeah. He has to pay AWS.
Emma, he'll come up with Emma.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, we'll snatch him up.
Tron listens. He listens, so he'll be hearing this. I'll let him know because we talk all the time. But yeah, oh yeah. Sorry, totally derailed the conversation.
No,
once you get out of the military, your whole perspective of life changes. You know, you use your brain power for the good of your family.
Yeah. Well, I think you can still do so much to help the military, even though you're not there. You know, you continue to serve just in a different way because these operators still need products. They have problems that they need fixed. And you're now in a position, you know, when you're not as a military member to actually fix these problems. So that's amazing. And
I could not double down on that more. I mean, and obviously my dad's had a different path than I did. I was doing some wild stuff there and totally had an impact when I was serving in uniform. But my gosh, I know I'm more impactful on this side, to your point of just being able to move differently. Sorry, there's small school children obviously walking by and my dogs are so mean to them. But yeah, to your point, I feel like I contribute just as much, if not more now.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. And you know, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's that time of day there.
Yeah.
Yesterday, just as an anecdote, you know, we're trying to by committee to give a mission, kind of a mission statement, describe what this consortium is all about. And for about 10 minutes, you know, words are being spread. It's like 7 lines already, and and I finally just said, hey, you've got to say in there somewhere that we support the warfighter. Because once you say that, nobody in the world is going to say, "Oh, we don't want to do that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one will do that.
Yeah.
So we had to insert, supporting the warfighter, which is what we do. We really do. No matter what company is in there, if they're doing a flight test for out in the UTR or NTTR, what is it? NT.
Yep.
That's support. That's that's the warfighter doing that stuff. And so you got to remind people sometimes about that.
I think a lot of people don't realize. So, I mean, talking to Brian from Veermeer, when we were talking, he's like, before I started working with the military, I just assumed you had all this Gucci stuff. Like everything we had to be decades older than what the military had. And I was like, turns out it's exactly the opposite, So
it's amazing.
there are problem sets that, have probably been solved 10 times over in the private sector that the DoD is still just struggling through. So, I mean, people out there, the podcast was created to connect people, to help people kind of interact and understand that there are people out there who are trying to solve these problems. And it sounds like that's kind of happening with the podcast. And it sounds like that's happening here with this, kind of accelerator in this consortium you're creating.
Yeah, we're excited to be a part of it. It's an exciting thing to be, and we're probably the smallest company in there and the newest, one of the newest. So just trying to help think about projects we can bring some of these other companies to bear on has been really fun and exciting for us.
One, I think you have a lot of insight into, obviously with your background and the people that you have with your company, they can provide input that these people probably have never received before, prior to sitting down. So I think, just being a small company doesn't negate the benefit that is brought by having you. When you're kind of tackling these problems and you're trying to work and collaborate with other companies, obviously it's probably the elephant in the room. It's like, how do you go from ideas and creating in theory to creating an application? And how do you get companies to either align their goals or put aside their own kind of, we all have our, I want to, my company to flourish. Like, how do you kind of align everything when you're producing products like this?
Man, that's such a great question, and something I think we deal with daily. We go on a lot of first dates, like a lot of first dates. And the second dates are always like, oh, okay, maybe there's something here. And, by about the third or fourth date, if you haven't committed to, and this is something that we always push, commit to proposing something with us. Commit to putting some skin in the game. You're not going to get paid for it, but we're going to compete together. And if we win, then we do. And we get to build something cool together. And the people that survive into that third, fourth date status where we've picked an opportunity and we want to go after it, those are the ones that we want to work with. The ones that aren't willing to throw their expertise in where we don't have it, really no interest in that, because that's not how you start a partnership or a team. So that's kind of how we vet through that. I would tell you the majority, it gets whittled down really quickly is what I'll say. And for no fault of any companies, everybody's busy. And so you just have to find that right sweet spot of people that you want to work with, because why would you work with anybody you don't want to at this point in the game when you have all the control on that particular front? Who do you want to work with, and who wants to work with you? And do you have a shared space or an idea that could come together well? And is everyone bought into that vision? And you figure that out pretty quickly along that continuum.
Where do you feel, obviously you've been in the game for a little while, but how do you meet new people in this space? Obviously there's a lot of conferences, and the more I look, the more I see conferences, but how do you kind of vet out, these are great places to interact with other companies, that are working in the same area?
You guys do bro checks.
Yeah, that's true.
We do a lot of bro checks.
Nice.
And I'll tell you, I haven't been in this space certainly as long as my dad has, but the same companies will start to come up over and over again. And they have a reputation for being excellent in a certain mission space, for example, or at a certain piece of the technology. And the more you hear about them, the more they pique my interest. And then we'll go out and ask everyone that we know, like, hey, have you ever worked with, or what have you heard about X, Y, or Z company? And a lot of it is word of mouth, to be honest with you. And I have found the loudest ones on LinkedIn and the ones that are in all of the articles are not the people that we really want to partner with. Sad to say. For anyone wasting those marketing dollars on Breaking Defense articles. And not Breaking Defense is great. That was just a bad example. War on the Rocks can be included. All of them. All of them. The people that that tend to shine through their work are the ones that you hear about. And those are the ones we gravitate towards. And that was not meant to be disparaging.
No, it is funny.
But it's so true. You know, it's so true. From me watching Emma at work, what I see her real forte is networking.
Oh.
I mean, her personality is kind of a magnet when she walks into the bar. You know what I mean? And many of her people in her network, as she builds that trust with them, they start giving her vectors on who you need to be involved in this program. You know, whether it's through partnership, whether it's sub, whatever it is, but she gets a lot of vectoring from her network. Right, Em? I mean, you do.
Yes. Everyone gives us the answers to the test at some point. So, yeah. I mean, and just being nice to somebody and having a strong liver has really done well for us, to be honest. And I got that from my dad. So yeah. And it also doesn't hurt. I mean, let's be honest, Vader, like how many chicks are there in this space? Like we're different. We look different. We talk different. We think different. And so I think that that's attractive to people to want to like mix it up a little bit and get better jokes other than fighter pilot jokes in the room, you know?
Yeah. Which those are good too, though. Yeah.
I mean, they're okay. They do have the best cheers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But, and it's a tactical advantage, you know, it provides you an opportunity to stand out, you know, beyond just like another, you know, like blue slacks and, you know, tucked in polo or whatever it is. So, yeah. So I think so now I have one more question and then I'll let you get going. This is kind of like you know, I'm a parent, obviously. So, Tony, getting the opportunity to work with your daughter, you know, and then, you know, proud pop moment kind of thing. Like, how is it, obviously, having seen her become a grown up and have a career and this experience that you get to share?
Yeah, well, no, it's a thing of beauty. It really is. It's exciting. Like I said a couple minutes ago, watching her work a crowd is just fantastic. It just to watch her do that, and then she'll grab me. You got to meet this guy, and you know, I've met so many guys, but I don't know what they do, because she'd say, "Oh, you got to meet this guy." So I meet him, and you know, turns out that one time she had me meet this guy and he was like a multi-millionaire and I had no clue. You know, it was like, hey, so what are you doing here? Well, I'm doing, you know what I mean? But that's really the biggest joy I get is watching her in action, because it's really powerful. It's a skill you don't see very often either. You know, it takes a lot. An engineer would never be at that level because, you know, the engineers want to get their slide rules out and measure the table. I shouldn't have said that. Maybe.
No, that's all right. That's good. I mean,
there's, I'm sure, some engineers on this.
Yeah, but I think, you know, at least the fighter pilot community, no offense to engineers, but, you know, we say we love nerds because, again, they build things and weapons and all the things that I could never do and we could never be in those shoes, you know, but, you know, we all have our role to play. So I couldn't agree more. I appreciate the heck out of them because I wouldn't have a job if they didn't make exquisite technology that I could go break.
Exactly.
So, well, awesome. I really appreciate you joining us on the, I guess Bender's not here today. It's just me. So joining me on the podcast. But Emma and Tony, thank you so much. How do people reach out to you or Strike, or if they want to, dive in with both feet or jump in? I guess they wouldn't dive with both feet, but either way, how would they get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Well, we have a website. It is live. It is strikesolutionsgroup.com. And I welcome anyone to reach out to me at any time, Emma at strikesolutionsgroup.com. I love connecting with people, and meeting people through Vader has just been amazing for us. So, and if we can help anyone, we're in it for the long haul on this and trying to make this community and this industry a better place. So let us know how we can do that for you.
Yeah, and through that, anyone interested in getting some career counseling, I'd be happy to do that.
Or consulting advice, if you're still in that business after today.
Career advice.
Yeah.
I did. The darkest time in my whole career was when I was commander of AFPC, 3.5 years. So first 6 months, I had every friend in the world call me just to check in. and after the first year, nobody called me.
Yeah, well, hopefully at least the bar was fully stocked for a little while when they were dropping off bottles. Hey, congrats on the new job. Here's some Jack Daniels.
Friday afternoons, I would go visit the fighter porch, and the guys who really had it were the Intel.
Oh,
the Intel guys were stocked, only top shelf too.
Nice.
So many crappy assignments. That's why.
Yeah.
Right.
So you gotta pay to play.
Yeah, I would never ask how they got it, because
you don't want to know.
Wasn't my responsibility.
Exactly. Sometimes you don't want to ask the questions you don't want answers to.
Exactly.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you again for being here. Everyone, like we talked about at the beginning, like, share, subscribe, spread the word, let everybody know about it, and reach out to Strike, because they're doing some great stuff. Help them do more great stuff. And then donations are always open. Sponsorships and are always welcome. So info at KodiakShack.com, and then KodiakShack.com, where you can also find the episodes, which I'm terrible because I think that's the first time I've ever said that. But check them out wherever you